They say evil is the root of all suffering. But they are wrong. It is not evil that silently corrodes civilizations, topples empires, ruins families, and buries potential in forgotten graves. Evil, at least, is deliberate. It has a method. It plots. It schemes. It calculates. Stupidity, on the other hand, is blind chaos in motion. It doesn't think. It doesn't pause. It doesn't learn. It acts with total conviction. Without reflection, it storms through doors it doesn't understand, destroys what it cannot comprehend, and calls it truth. And the most terrifying thing? It does so while smiling, believing it's doing good. The true menace of the modern world is not wickedness, it is ignorance armed with certainty. That hollow conviction that one already knows, that one does not need to observe, to read, to understand, because they've already made up their mind, and they're proud of it. The fool does not whisper, he shouts. He does not ask, he preaches. He does not reflect, he reacts. He walks through life like a blunt weapon, unaware of the damage he leaves behind. Stupidity is louder than intelligence. It is faster than wisdom. And in times of chaos, it spreads quicker than fire. Throughout history, every collapsed empire, every unnecessary war, every self-inflicted downfall, you will find a common thread. Not malice, not villainy, but the arrogance of the ignorant. The Peloponnesian War was not sparked by evil men. It was sparked by leaders too stupid to see beyond their own certainty, men who believed they would conquer easily, and instead led their people into ruin. Athens, the crown jewel of classical thought, fell, not to barbarians, but to its own hubris. Napoleon, in his prime, stood unmatched across Europe, but it was not a brilliant enemy who broke him, it was his refusal to heed reality. His invasion of Russia, an act of strategic blindness, born from the illusion that he could not lose. His fall was not tragic. It was inevitable, because even the most brilliant mind, once it stops questioning itself, becomes stupid. Stupidity begins where curiosity ends. You can call it confidence. You can call it boldness. But at its root, it's fear. Fear of not knowing. Fear of appearing uncertain. Fear of being wrong. And so people armor themselves in delusions, surround themselves with echo chambers, and shut their eyes to complexity. Because simplicity is comfortable, certainty is easy, but power is never built on comfort or ease. It is forged in tension, in doubt, in the uncomfortable realm of, I don't know yet. The stupid man clings to what he thinks is true. The powerful man searches for what is. Understand this. Stupidity is not lack of intelligence. It is the refusal to learn, the unwillingness to listen, the inability to entertain an idea without immediately labeling it, rejecting it, or weaponizing it. And it is everywhere, in boardrooms, in governments, on stages, in screens. The world does not reward wisdom, it rewards confidence. And so the confident fool rises faster than the quiet genius. But the damage they do is immeasurable. The stupid man starts wars with the wrong enemy. He burns bridges before he ever learns what they were built for. He makes enemies of allies and allies of enemies. Because he cannot see beyond his own emotional needs. He surrounds himself with people who nod, never those who challenge. He confuses noise for leadership, and force for influence. He leads not with vision, but with reaction. And what's worse, he believes he's the hero. Because stupidity is self-righteous. It never questions its morality. It never sees itself as part of the problem. Evil may lie, but stupidity believes its own fiction. This is why it is more dangerous than evil. Evil must hide. Stupidity parades in daylight. It tweets. It broadcasts. It votes. It signs the dotted line without reading. It gives speeches while knowing nothing. And it multiplies. There is no cure for stupidity once it's armored itself in pride. You cannot reason with the unreasonable. You cannot debate with a closed mind. You cannot build anything lasting on a foundation that refuses to be examined. So what is the antidote? It is not intelligence. It is not education. Some of the most dangerous fools in history were highly educated. The antidote is awareness, self-awareness, strategic humility, the quiet power of reflection, the kind of thinking that doesn't need to be loud, that doesn't need validation. It is the mind that seeks complexity, that says, I don't know, but I want to understand. That's the mind that cannot be manipulated. That's the mind that builds legacy. You want to rise above the masses? Then you must discipline your mind to resist the drug of certainty. Kill your need to always be right. Silence the part of you that rushes to speak before listening. Step away from the mob. Build your inner fortress, not of opinions, but of principles, not of beliefs, but of questions. Because every belief must be tested. Every idea must survive scrutiny. That's how strategy is born. That's how influence is forged. You want power? Then you must think deeply, consistently, independently. Stop parroting what you heard online. Stop adopting worldviews that comfort you. Start doing the hard work of actual thinking. History doesn't remember the loudest. It remembers the most disciplined. Those who saw clearly while others raged blindly. Those who weren't seduced by the certainty of crowds. Those who walked alone, not because they were antisocial, but because they refused to walk off cliffs with the rest. They studied what others mocked. They observed what others ignored. They listened when everyone else talked. And in the silence, they found leverage. Leverage over themselves. Leverage over their emotions. Leverage over their reactions. This is not about being smart. It's about being sovereign. You do not need to know everything, but you must know how to think. You must train your mind like a weapon, precise, patient, unflinching. Because in a world where stupidity is viral, thinking is rebellion. And if you want to rise, not just survive, but dominate, then you must do what the masses refuse to do. You must see through illusion. You must detect stupidity in others, but especially in yourself. Because power doesn't come from being right all the time. It comes from knowing when you're wrong and correcting fast. This is how empires are built. Not by certainty, but by clarity. Clarity is rare. Clarity is dangerous. Clarity cuts through deception like steel. And it begins the moment you stop asking, "How do I look?" and start asking, "What is true?" Stupidity hates truth. It flees from it like a shadow under the rising sun. Because truth demands responsibility, and that is what the stupid fear most. Responsibility requires effort. It requires accountability. It requires the willingness to be wrong, and the courage to change. But the foolish soul would rather blame the world, curse the system, point fingers at imagined enemies, than confront the brutal mirror of self-reflection. Understand this. Most people don't actually want to be free. They want to feel free, without the burden of thinking for themselves. So they delegate their beliefs to media. They outsource their opinions to movements. They parrot slogans in place of strategy. And when it all falls apart, they wonder why. That's the pattern of stupidity. Abdicate, amplify, collapse. The Romans didn't lose their empire overnight. They lost it inch by inch. Through moral decay, intellectual laziness, and the slow erosion of clarity. Bread in circuses, distraction and indulgence, replaced discipline and thought. And when the barbarians came, they didn't need to conquer Rome. Rome had already conquered itself. So ask yourself, are you building a Rome? Or are you rotting from within? Stupidity isn't some abstract disease. It's a decision, made 1,000 times a day. Every time you choose outrage over inquiry, conformity over curiosity, reaction over reason, you feed it. Every time you speak without knowledge, you strengthen it. Every time you dismiss a challenge to your worldview without consideration, you let it grow. And every time you refuse to learn, because you're too proud, too distracted, too lazy, you are not just being unwise. You are becoming dangerous. Because the truly stupid do not suffer alone. They drag others down with them, families, teams, institutions, nations. That's the horror of it. Stupidity doesn't stay isolated. It metastasizes. It leaks into decisions, infects relationships, poisons potential. You don't have to be evil to destroy something beautiful. You just have to be blind and convinced you see. But here's the truth they never taught you. You are not fixed. You are not doomed to remain foolish. The mind, unlike stone, can be reshaped, but only if you choose to shatter your illusions. Only if you declare war on the part of you that craves comfort more than clarity. That wants to be right more than it wants to evolve. That fears silence, complexity, and stillness, because it's in the stillness where you face yourself. The modern world is noisy for a reason. It keeps you distracted, addicted, superficially engaged, but never deeply thinking. Because deep thought is subversive. Deep thought makes you immune to propaganda, to manipulation, to lies. And that terrifies those who profit from your stupidity. A society of thinkers is dangerous to the corrupt, to the lazy, to the self-interested. That's why you're trained to consume, not contemplate. to react, not reflect. So you must train yourself in reverse. You must become the anomaly, the outlier, the one who watches when others speak, questions when others comply, reflects when others explode. It is a lonely path, but it is the only one that leads to sovereignty. You don't gain power by memorizing facts. You gain power by cultivating judgment, discernment, depth, and depth is rare in a world of shortcuts. It is an act of rebellion to think deeply, to study history, to read beyond headlines, to examine yourself as ruthlessly as you examine others. Because until you do that, you will be a pawn in someone else's game. You will march into wars you don't understand, fight enemies who aren't real, and sabotage your own future while believing you're making progress. That's the bitter irony of stupidity. It always thinks it's evolving, but it's running in circles, fast, loud, and blind. So slow down, strip away the noise, ask yourself, what am I actually building? Am I guided by principle or emotion? Am I thinking strategically, or just reacting like everyone else? You were not born to be average, but you will die average if you think like the crowd. The crowd never questions. The crowd seeks comfort. The crowd demands certainty. But you, if you're listening to this, if you feel that burning inside, that whisper that says, there's more, then you must become the exception. Not out of ego, out of necessity, because the world is not neutral. You are either rising or being pulled under. And in a world drowning in stupidity, silence is surrender. You must stand, not loudly, but unshakably. You must become a force that cannot be manipulated, that cannot be swayed by trends or noise. A mind that cuts through illusion like a blade. This is what real power looks like, not noise, not aggression, not dominance, but precision. And precision requires discipline. Discipline of thought, discipline of speech, discipline of action. Not everyone will understand you. Many will resent you, because to a fool, clarity looks like arrogance. To the blind, the one who sees looks dangerous. Let them be offended. Let them misunderstand. Your job is not to please the masses. Your job is to sharpen your mind, master your emotions, and elevate your existence. Because when you do that, when you truly become sovereign over yourself, the world cannot touch you. You do not need to shout. You do not need to prove. You only need to become. The powerful do not seek validation. They radiate clarity. And clarity dismantles stupidity like light dissolves darkness. So stop trying to be liked. Start trying to be lethal. Not in violence, but in thought, in presence, in perception. Let the fools chatter. Let the mobs rage. Let the loud ones rise and fall in cycles of drama and decline. And while they burn in their own noise, you build, silently, strategically, unstoppably. Because that is how empires are built, not in the glare of applause, but in the shadows of discipline. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to evolve. Stupidity thrives on distraction. Mastery thrives on focus. And focus is a weapon. You must wield it like a blade. Sharpen it daily. Protect it ruthlessly. Cut through the noise, the gossip, the endless stream of digital mediocrity that's designed to keep you numb, reactive, and average. Because the world does not reward the distracted. It devours them. You must be different. When others scroll, you study. When others react, you calculate. When others drown in their emotions, you extract insight from them. This is not about being cold. It's about being clear. The clear mind does not need to yell. It does not need to posture. It does not collapse in the face of adversity. It bends reality by understanding it deeper than anyone else. Do you know why the foolish are so loud? Because their silence terrifies them. In silence, they might hear the echo of their own ignorance, and so they keep talking, shouting, posting, reacting, never reflecting. But you must learn to be alone with your own mind. To sit in silence until it hurts. To stare at your own contradictions without flinching. That is how wisdom begins. That is how power is born. There is no shortcut for this. You cannot fake depth. You cannot mimic wisdom. You must bleed for it, not through wounds of the body, but through the destruction of the ego. You must learn to say, I was wrong. You must learn to say, I don't know. You must learn to walk away from the comfort of shallow certainty into the dark wilderness of thought. That wilderness is where greatness lives. Every strategist, every visionary, every titan of history, from Marcus Aurelius to Miyamoto Musashi, all learned to navigate that internal terrain. Alone, uncertain, but relentless. They didn't cling to what was popular. They clung to what was true. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. You cannot become powerful unless you're willing to look stupid first. The path to wisdom is paved with humility. It begins by admitting how little you know. How easily you're fooled. How often you lie to yourself. Not maliciously, just conveniently. But convenience is the assassin of greatness. You must train yourself to choose truth over comfort. Clarity over noise. Process over performance. This is not glamorous. It will not get you likes. It will not win you praise. But it will set you free. Free from groupthink. Free from the illusion of certainty. Free from the slow decay of unchallenged ignorance. Because ignorance that is known can be corrected. But ignorance that is celebrated becomes fatal. Look around. The modern world has weaponized stupidity. It rewards outrage, speed, tribalism. It punishes nuance, thought, depth. But history does not care about your feelings. History belongs to those who think clearly and act decisively. You don't need to be born a genius. You need to train your mind like a warrior trains his body. Read, reflect, rewrite yourself. Let your thoughts become weapons. Let your questions become your compass. Let your solitude become your forge. Most people fear being alone with themselves because they've never met who they can become. But you, if you endure the fire, will emerge forged. Not broken. This is what separates rulers from the ruled, thinkers from reactors, legends from the lost. The foolish will mock you. The weak will envy you. The loud will try to silence you. Let them. Your silence will speak louder than their noise. Because when you master yourself, you master the game. And this is the final truth you must never forget. You do not need to defeat stupidity in others. You only need to root it out of yourself. Because once you rise, truly rise, you become proof that it's possible. And that is more dangerous than any weapon. A clear mind in a world of confusion is unstoppable. So sharpen your thoughts, guard your energy, walk alone if you must. The age of stupidity is loud. Let your silence become power. Let your clarity become your crown. And let the world watch, as you rise without noise, and dominate without permission.